Hi folks, I'm going to take a look at the question, why call yourself a Satanist if you don't believe in Satan? And that's something that anyone will encounter if they look into the subject of Satanism in any level beyond those sensationalist true story paperbacks. Modern Satanism, as it was defined by Anton LaVey in the 60s, it was largely an atheistic approach where Satan had only symbolic relevance. But when you initially try to wrap your head around this idea that you're going to call yourself a Satanist but you don't believe in Satan, it sounds very, very strange, but when you get to the heart of the matter, it's anything but. So let's begin with a disclaimer. I don't call myself a Satanist. Okay, so we'll get to why in the end. But let me tell you how this process seems to work. You begin by understanding that you are first and foremost an individualist. You're someone who doesn't go along with the herd. You stand alone. You formulate your own ideas rather than simply looking for someone to tell you what to think. You're an individualist. Now, the consequence, the inevitable consequence of being an individualist is that you will be villainized. And there is a very easy to understand reason for that. Because the individualist is the one person more than any other who is able to look at the world and point the finger at all the things that are wrong with it. For the simple reason that the individualist is not motivated by the desire to be liked. So, when he does things, he's not doing them to fit in. He's doing them because he thinks they're right. So, you're automatically going to start finding out and talking about all the things that are wrong with the world. And the herds of the world, they don't like that. So you will be villainized. And I'm sure I could look up the internet and put together a catalogue of names from the past. People who in the modern day are regarded as heroes, but in their own times were villainized. I mean, Galileo is one that immediately jumps to mind. And there's one of the ancient Greek philosophers as well who was forced to commit suicide. I think it was Socrates, right? So I'm sure I could provide quite a lengthy list of individualists who stood against the groupthink mentality, stood alone, said what they thought was right, and were branded as the villain. So you're an individualist. Now, that means you're the bad guy. Now you know you're not the bad guy, but they think you're the bad guy. So, who's the ultimate bad guy? It's Satan, right? A being that you don't believe exists, but symbolically speaking, the ultimate expression of the bad guy is Satan. So, if you decide to call yourself a Satanist, that's your way of saying it's okay to be the bad guy. You see, you can react in a couple of different ways when you're branded as the villain. You can try your hardest and expend all your energy to convince those people that you're not the villain. Or you can simply bend to their wishes. Like that's what Galileo did when he was, forced to recant what he believed. He recanted. He did it twice, in fact, in his life. So you can do that if you want. That's the essence of the right-hand path, as it's called. But the left-hand path approach, the individualist approach, is to simply say, okay, call me the bad guy. It doesn't matter. And to say that you are a Satanist, that is simply the most potent expression of declaring your independence from any need to be liked or respected by the common herds of the world. That's what it means to be a modern Satanist. Now, the trouble with the label is that, there is such a thing as theistic Satanism, people who see Satan as a god. In fact, there's probably a whole lot of different ways that Satanism is understood. But this is no different than the fact that there are a whole lot of different ways that Christianity is understood. I mean, the Catholics are calling the Protestants the heretics. The Protestants have to contend with fringe groups like Westboro Baptist Church. They're the guys that are always going around with their God hates fags placards. So, I guess everybody has to make a decision on what label they attach to themselves and whether that label is practical for them. And to me, a label is pretty much only as good as the effect that it has. So, what is the effect of calling yourself a Satanist? Well, principally, as I've explained, the effect is that it allows you to stand alone. It's like the most potent antidote to, I suppose, what you'd call like a psychic disease. The need to be liked and respected by people. Because that is toxic. That is toxic to any ability you have to actually be a force for genuine good in the world by pointing out all the things that are wrong with the world. So that's number one. Number two is that it has a useful side effect in that it tends to bring out certain things in people that you're talking to. If someone sees you wearing a pentagram, like the one I've got around my neck right now, or if someone, if you tell someone that you're a Satanist, or if you're public about it in any way, their reaction might be, that's a bit strange, tell me what this actually means. Or it might be, oh, you're a devil worshipper, and all this sort of nonsense. So it causes people to reveal a great deal about themselves that they otherwise probably wouldn't reveal, and it causes them to reveal it very, very rapidly. So you can immediately know whether that person is actually worth having a conversation with. Because it reveals so much, you can simply say, oh, look, that's someone whose understanding is like that of a child, who isn't capable of understanding anything at any level more than a purely tabloid sensationalist level. And you can immediately dismiss that person for the moron that they are. Simple as that. And then go on with more productive conversations with people who understand. And I gotta say something. When I started wearing the pentagram, as I do occasionally in my videos, I did it quite covertly. And I have to say, I do respect my subscribers for the sheer amount of you who have not reacted negatively to me wearing that. To those of you that have expressed interest in why I'm wearing it. Now, when I make a video and I talk about Satanism, or I wear this pentagram, it has the effect of causing my subscribers to go down a few places. I lose a few every time. And I'm doing that almost on purpose, because I don't play the game of trying to get as many subscribers as possible. I would rather have a subscriber base full of people who get me, who understand what I'm about, and people that I'm able to have a productive exchange with. So that's the usefulness of the pentagram. That's the usefulness of the term Satanist. It allows you to categorize people very, very easily. The third effect, and this is the dangerous one, and this is the one why I don't call myself a Satanist. Although I do, I tend to play with it a little bit. I tend to sort of let people live with a little bit of mystery. Like, is that guy a Satanist or not? This kind of a thing. So they see the pentagram, but they see that I'm not calling myself a Satanist. So why am I wearing the pentagram? And they get all confused. But it's fine to call yourself a Satanist if you're, say, self-employed and no one has any power over you. But if you're in a regular job and you're at the mercy of employers and you're not sure who's going to be in power over you from one day to the next, then you don't know. I mean, a couple of years down the line, someone could be ruling over you who has the power to make life very difficult for you, and he could be someone who has absolutely no understanding. So it doesn't make a lot of sense pragmatically to call yourself a Satanist unless you're very sure that you can't be hurt by doing that. So that's why people call themselves Satanists when they don't believe in Satan. They are individualists who don't care about being branded as the bad guy. They don't need the good guy badge that so many people seem to need. And I think that's a positive thing. I mean, Satanism, there's so many people in modern Satanism that seem to be pretenders. They're all about attitude. They're all about, going into the camera and stuff like this. And there's really not a great deal going on in here that's intellectually sound. I mean, any stupid teenager can come along, who's into heavy metal and likes the sort of dark, sinister glamour of it all, and decides, I'm going to call myself a Satanist, but they haven't got a clue what it even means. So they call themselves Satanist, and who's to stop them? So it could be that the term Satanist is now becoming so watered down that it's almost useless. So I'm attached to the pentagram because I know what it symbolizes. It symbolizes defiance. It symbolizes vital earthly existence. The goat's head. I really like what it means. I get what it means. A lot of people don't. They just see it and they say, oh, it must be evil. But it's really just a symbol of life in the here and now, earthly, fleshly life, over some kind of hypothetical afterlife that no one could even possibly know exists. So I resonate very much to the inverted pentagram. I don't resonate to the term Satanist, purely because one of these days it could be detrimental to my health, put it that way, and my survival. So I hope you understand a little bit more as to why this term Satanist makes sense to some people.